Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to another weekly used gun review. Remember, in these videos, we take about 8 used firearms that have come into the store, give you guys about a 2 to 4 minute review of each to give you guys an idea of some different stuff that is out there on the market. Remember, the point of this video is strictly to be entertaining and educational. We are not making this video to sell anything, to keep in accordance with YouTube's policies. Anyway, guys, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it now. Alright, remember the format of these videos. We start off with most common and move through least common as the video progresses. Starting us off in the first spot is a CZ75 Compact, and this one is the D model, D for decocker. You can also get it just with the standard thumb safety as well. But I found, operating a firearms store, that the decocker model is what most people gravitate towards, and also what I personally prefer as well. So the story here begins actually in 1975, as the name would suggest, the CZ75, with the development of this pistol in former Czechoslovakia, current Czech Republic. Now, at the time that it was developed, of course, the Czech Republic was involved with the Bloc era firearms with the Makarov round, the 9x18, even though it had begun developing a variation that would be in a 9mm. Now, even though this would be developed in 1975, it was really meant to be an export and sports enthusiast pistol, not really designed for military use. It did see a lot of adoption within police and military use around the world after its development, and people in civilian markets around the world as well. Sports communities definitely love the handgun, and obviously today it's still a very, very popular design. Now, the Czech Republic would not actually adopt this for any type of military or police service until 1989. So it would actually have been produced for well over a decade before it would actually gain the use within the country in which it was designed, which is interesting because this has always been regarded as one of the best service sidearms ever developed. Now, one of the interesting features about this that makes it unique is it does fit the slide into the frame as opposed to the slide around the frame, which gives it a very low bore axis, and as you can see, a very narrow slide. So your bore axis, or where your bore is sitting, is just directly above the wrist, which gives you just a very nice low sight picture on the pistol, which again I personally like. A little bit lower than what you might see on a Glock, way lower than what you might see on a 1911 or a SIG 226 or something like that, but I personally prefer low bore axis firearms. That also helps you with recoil reduction and muzzle flip reduction. So getting back on shot, getting multiple shots on target quickly is something that can effectively be done with this handgun, which is one other reason it makes it very popular. So CZ75, of course, very, very popular handgun. Now, when it comes to pricing, of course, the pricing is going to be all over the board because of the different variety and sizes and options and stuff that are out there. Something like this, a basic model, brand new, typically you're going to find in about the $600 to $650 mark. You could, have found them on sale for a little bit less, maybe in the high 500s. Used, you're going to find something like this right now in about the $550 range, okay, just with the way the market is. The higher end versions, the more loaded models, the Shadow 2s, of course, can go up well over $1,000, but that's just the variety of the different things on the line. I personally prefer just the basic watered down variations, the standard service configuration. I don't really go for the whole, target competition models or loaded models myself. I like everything sort of bare bones. So something like this, the CZ75s have always been a really great purchase. Also, on the market, there have been surplus from police departments and militaries around the world that have come out pretty beat up, but they are still basic CZ75s. And I've seen those sell in the market for between about $300 to $400. So even if you like the pattern, it is still at its heart a CZ75, just maybe a lot of finish wear and stuff like that from being holstered a lot. But you could get something like that pretty inexpensively, which would make a really good, truck gun or even a primary carry or home defense firearm, just a little bit beat up, but still a really, really good design, really, really good firearm. Always been a big fan of the CZ75, so that's number one. Okay, up next is a personal favorite of mine. This is a Remington 700, specifically the SPS Tactical. This one here is a 223 with a 16-inch free-floated heavy contour barrel, Hogue overmold stock. Very, very nice rifles, and I actually have one of these myself, but mine is a 308 with a 20-inch barrel and the black Hogue stock, but very, very cool. I definitely really enjoy mine. Now, the history on the Remington 700 actually starts prior to World War II with the Remington Model 30, which is a very high quality, very well made sporting bolt action rifle that was, of course, produced by Remington. Now, when Remington would get involved with war production, like a lot of other domestic companies in the United States, they would shelve a lot of their commercial, sporting firearms in exchange for putting all of their efforts towards military contracts. Now, during the war, like a lot of other domestic arms manufacturers, they had learned that there was a lot to be gained with large-scale production, reducing the cost of manufacturing, creating standardized parts, and things like that. So Remington, as well as, again, Colt, other manufacturers, decided to revamp their commercial lines after World War II to implement some of these manufacturing techniques. Now, one of the things they wanted to change upon was their modern sporting bolt gun, the Model 30, and they would come out with the Model 721 by simplifying the design. The 721 would turn into the 722, and then in 1962, 1963, they would come out with this, the Remington 700. Now, the Remington 700 has been a staple in the sporting bolt action community really ever since its inception. Things like this, the Remington 700, are probably the most common bolt action deer rifle that are owned, at least on the North American continent. Things like the Savage Model 10 or the Winchester Model 70 are probably close competitors, but I'd probably venture a guess to say there's more Remington 700s out there than anything else when it's, we're talking about this market. Now, in the Remington 700 line, they do make a huge variety of different products, whether it's, the tactical precision rifles, long-range precision rifles and chassis, varmint rifles, and the pricing is definitely all over the board. If we're talking about this one specifically, the SPS Tactical, brand new, you should be able to find one of these again when they become available again between about $600 and $700. Used, you should be right now between maybe about $500 and $600. So again, really, really cool rifles. I really, really enjoy mine. Again, mine's in 308. I haven't taken it out a super long range. I think I've fired it at 100 yards is the most I've ever had it out to. Unfortunately, here in Indiana, central Indiana, there's not a lot of long range places to shoot, but I've always enjoyed mine. All right, sorry about all the beeping you guys are hearing. I'm trying to film this during the day while I'm open, which is never an easy task. Next up, I have a really, really cool little rifle. This is a CZ527. This one is a 7.62x39. I'm gonna pull it out of the box here, I'll be right back. Okay, the CZ527 is one of CZ's bolt action lines. It's really designed around these small bore calibers. This one, as I mentioned, is a 7.62x39. They make them in 222, 223, 300 blackout, 22 Hornet, 17 Hornet. I think that's about it. They make them in many different barrel lengths and configurations. This one is a shorter carbine length, again in 7.62x39. They make a variation of this with a longer barrel, and it just has scope mounting points. You can mount a scope to this, but you do need proprietary rings for this rifle. There might be one other company who makes them, I can't recall. Really nice fiber optic front hooded sight and a very tall rear post. Detachable 5-round box magazine. Now really what this is a scaled down Mauser action. I personally own one of these, actually this exact same rifle, not this exact same rifle, but this same model, the 527 carbine in 7.62x39. This actually belonged to a customer of mine. I think he was in chatting wanting a carbine 7.62x39 sort of brush gun. I recommended that I really enjoy mine, so he bought this maybe a year or two ago and then recently came back and traded it in for something else. So I've always been very fond of these rifles. Very nice, smooth action, and again, you can have a lot of fun plinking around with really inexpensive 7.62x39 ammunition, which even today is not that difficult to find and not that expensive compared to a lot of other things. Some cool features about this as well is it does have a set trigger, so you can push on the back here, and then when you go to pull the trigger, it's a very light, I want to say probably about 1.5 pounds on the trigger pull. Other than that, just your standard trigger pull is somewhere probably around 4 to 5 pounds. Nice rubber bat pad, American walnut stock, checkering here in the wrist, beautiful blued finish. Just an overall really, really cool rifle. Now, one of the negatives about this is aftermarket parts like magazines, scope, rails and stuff are a little bit on the pricey side, and your options on them are pretty limited as there is not a lot of aftermarket support on this. One other thing, when these first released, they did have an issue, especially in 7.62x39 with the tang receiving cracks. This does not have one, and mine does not have one. I got mine like probably 2 years ago. I haven't put that many rounds through it, maybe 200 to 300, and I haven't seen an issue develop. But anyway, keep an eye on that if you pick one of these up. And if you see one used, look for a little spider webbing or cracking right here in the back of the tang. Pricing on these new, when you can find them, should be in about the $700 price point. Used, you should be at about 5 to 6 in really good condition. So again, just a really fun plinking rifle. And even if you like this layout, but you don't like the 7.62 by 39 round, you can pick it up in those other calibers, 223, you know, available as well. Should be around the same price point. But anyway, there you go, CZ527. All right, up next is a very popular revolver from Ruger. This is the Ruger SP101. This one is a match champion. Beautiful looking revolver. Now this one here is 357-38. They made them in 327 Federal, 22 LR, and 9mm as well. Now this one, being the match champion, has the custom wood grips, the 4-inch barrel, beautiful stainless finish, fiber optic sights, very nice smooth trigger, adjustable rear sight. Just an overall gorgeous firearm. The traditional SP101 that most people have is the 2.5-inch barrel with the rubberized grip. And typically those retail new for about $550, $600. Now the Match Champion, having all the upgrades, does retail new in about the $750 to $800 price point. And they do maintain a lot of their value, especially in the current market. Right now you're going to find these $600 to $700 at the current time. The SP101 as well as the Ruger GP100 did come onto the scene together in 1989 to replace the Ruger Security Line Security 6 357 revolver, which in size was about between the two. So they went from one standard size to a mix or a choice between a small frame and the SP101 or a large frame like the GP100. Both of these revolvers, the GP100 and the SP101, are very well regarded for being reliable, very durable, very beefy and heavy for what they are. When it comes to concealed carry revolvers, the traditional SP101 does stack up against things like the Taurus 85 series or the Smith & Wesson J-frame series, and out of the three, the SP101s are always the heaviest, but keep in mind with that added extra weight and heft, you're going to get reduced recoil impulse, which is one positive, so might not be the best for a concealed carry, although you absolutely can, just going to be a little bit on the heavy side. But for something like a glove box gun, a nightstand gun, if something you want to take with you hiking, having that reduced recoil is definitely a nice option. Better follow-up shots, more accuracy, that sort of thing, especially for somebody that does not have as much training and somebody who does not have a lot of experience with recoil control. So a great first-time revolver for somebody, again, because of that extra weight and heft. They do balance really nice. I do really like the SP101s. This and a Match Champion, just really cool. It is not a very large firearm. This is probably, personally, even though it has a lot of those features, not something that I would personally pick up as like a match or a target firearm, because it is still on the small and the light size. I don't know about revolver competition circuits, if that's really a popular thing or not in terms of different frame sizes, different overall size configurations, if there might be limitations there. So this, for like a small frame revolver competition or small frame pistol competition, might be something that somebody would pick up. I'm not really well versed in that area, but anyway, still a really beautiful looking firearm and good viable defensive option. Again, you are a little bit limited on capacity at 5 rounds for the size, but still really nice overall. So that is that, a Ruger SP101 Match Champion. All right, up next is a pretty cool one. This is a Rossi Taurus Circuit Judge. Let me go ahead and pull it out of the box here and I'll show you. All right, the Taurus Rossi Circuit Judge. This one here is in excellent condition, so excellent. In fact, it still has the warning tag hang label here on the trigger guard and does not even look like it's been fired, but it is pre-owned nonetheless. So what you have here essentially is the Taurus Judge, which you see here, which would have a pistol grip and a shorter barrel length. They made them in different barrel length configurations. Now, what made that revolver so popular was the fact that it would fire 10 shotgun shells as well as 45 Colt. They've been made for quite a while. You could get them new between $450 and $550 and used usually between $3 and $4. Again, prices are elevated, as we know. Now what they did is they took the Taurus Judge and turned it into a carbine by adding a stock, a 4-end, and an 18.5-inch barrel. This also has a fiber optic sight. This is Brazilian hardwood. You do have a nice rubber butt pad on here. They make this with a polymer stock configuration as well. They added a little scope rail here at the top, and then you have these gas shields or heat shields over here at the top now, or the sides. Now remember, on a revolver, you never want to hold your hand next to the forcing cone area, as there are expanding and very hot gases that do expand outside of the side of the face of the cylinder when it's discharged. So you don't want to put any flesh around that area. You could really hurt yourself. That's one of the problems that have really plagued the revolver carbine concept, really even since the early Colt variations of this was to keep the shooter from getting hurt. You also have big swells up here on the forend to keep your hand more in a forward position as well, but you still can catch some, you know, some gases or some, I want to say fragments from the, you know, a lead round or whatever as they come out, as people do report. So not usually the most enjoyable shooting experience, but still a pretty cool firearm nonetheless. You could use these for snake hunting, stuff like that, but mainly this is going to be a range novelty, but it is very, very cool, sort of the modern revolving carbine, if you will. New, typically, and it's funny because there are some that I have seen, some websites that have had these in stock recently, or maybe still do, for about the $650 to $700 price point, but used on Gunbroker, these are going anywhere between $700 to $1,000 used. So I expect this one, in like new, looks potentially unfired condition in the box, to be somewhere in the $600 to $700 price point. But anyway, a really, really cool little carbine nonetheless. If you do have a traditional Taurus Judge, the firing mechanics, mechanism, trigger pull, and everything is going to be exactly the same. So if you want to get an idea of, maybe you have a Judge, you want to get a carbine to go with it, again, everything's going to be functionally identical, other than the fact it's going to have a stock and a longer barrel with a forend. So anyway, interesting little animal there, the Taurus Circuit Judge, Taurus Rossi Circuit Judge. Interesting to get that one in here for you. Okay, up next is one that you guys recently saw. This is a CZ Scorpion Evo 3S1. This is the micro. Let me pull this out of here. I'll be right back. Okay, so I had one of these on one of these videos at the beginning of the month, so about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now that was the full-length carbine variation with the M-LOK handguard. This is yet another interesting and not too commonly seen variation of the Scorpion Evo 3S1 line, and this is the micro. What you're going to notice is it is technically a pistol, but the pistol Scorpion variations typically had, well, they came in 3 variations. They came in this. More commonly, you would see the polymer handguard come out with a little bit of a barrel sticking out the end, and then you would have the version with the faux suppressor on it as well. Being the pistol, there was no stock, but you can get a SB Tactical brace like this. This is actually branded CZ, which gives it a very small overall package. Now, of course, with all the brouhaha going around the pistol brace things, still they are technically legal to own and use the way you want to. This comes with 2 20-round magazines. You could also get them at the 10 and the 30-round configuration. Now, the micro version like this came out onto the market well after the others. Now, if we back up a little bit, the military submachine gun variation would be produced in 2009. About 2014, 2015, I believe it's 2014 SHOT Show, CZ would have come out with the civilian version, the S1, being S for semi-automatic. The A1 was the military variation. And only a couple years ago, about 2 years ago, did they come out with a micro version, and they have not been too easy to find. Now, of course, it goes without saying the market is a little bit crazy on all the products right now. And new, you would have found this for about $1,100 if you can still find it today. I don't know what they would go for today. New, probably a lot higher. Used, I'm seeing them go between about $11 and $13, depending on condition and, you know, time of day that they sell. So anyway, so I would expect this, you know, $1,200 range maybe. It does have a shortened handguard with a hand stop right up here at the front. Like I said, very small package. Now, interesting thing about these is it is basically manufactured on 2 receiver halves that are effectively screwed together, and the entire thing is polymer, upper and lower, or trigger group module, if you will. Steel parts being the, you know, the barrel, the trunnion, the bolt carrier group, trigger control components, interior trigger control components. The trigger itself is polymer, and that's basically it. Very simple design, but very popular. When it comes to pistol caliber carbines, these have been one of the most popular ones we have sold new and used. They never really stick around too long. I don't think I've had a micro in my shop, either new or used. I may have had a new one when they first came out. I can't really remember. I don't think I have, though. But still very highly sought after, very cool design. But anyway, there is a Scorpion Evo 3S1 Micro. Up next is a pretty interesting little target pistol. This is the Browning Nomad, and these were made between 1962 and 1974. It's a 22 LR pistol. Now, the Nomad was a simplified and less expensive version of the Browning Challenger, which is, of course, the predecessor. And the Challenger would have had a couple of distinctive different features. It would have had better sights. Traditionally, it would have wood grips. And then there was a last round hold open on the Challenger, which you did not get on the Nomad. So just a couple cost-saving measures on here to make it more of an economic type pistol. Now this would come out in 2 barrel configurations. The 4.5 inch you see here. They also had, it was a 7 1/4, 7.5. I can't remember. It was shortly over 7 inches. Of course, a longer target barrel length, if you will. Now these are really designed for higher velocity ammunition. They were not known for cycling anything higher than premium high velocity ammo if you ever do pick one of these up. Now this particular one was made in 1967. The way you date one of these is you typically have a number like the number 2 and then P for the first run of production, I guess, in 1960s. So that would be 1962. In some limited cases, you will find the letter transposed towards the end of the serial number. So in this particular case, we have it ending in P7, making it 1967, but the P being at the end of the serial number, which was actually, it was noted that they did it that way, but not too often. So that's a little bit of a rarity there. This one also comes with a spare magazine. Overall condition on this is excellent. I mean, the bluing all throughout is very, very high. These were made in Belgium. And there is a little bit of wear on the front grip strap here, but other than that, I mean, the thing rates very high, probably at about the 95%-ish, I would say. Price point on these is not too high. In poor condition, you might start at about $300. In really good condition like this, you might end up somewhere between $500 and $600. So they are not that common. You don't really see them around too much. In fact, this is probably the only one that I have had in here. This was actually brought in by a viewer of the channel who has sold me firearms in the past, and you guys have seen those on previous videos. But he always brings in some interesting stuff. This is one of them. He also brought in another target pistol with this, which is coming up now. Okay, last but not least is the second target pistol. This is a Colt Woodsman. A lot of you guys have probably seen them around your gun stores, gun shows, things like that. This is a 22 target pistol, and it's probably one of the most iconic and unique 22 target pistols to exist. This is a John Moses Browning design and was manufactured by Colt between 1915 and 1977. Now, there were 3 distinct series or variations of this pistol that had subtle changes over the years. The first series is accredited between 1915 and 1941. That's the beginning of production until the beginning of World War II. As I talked about with the Remington 700, most of the modern arms manufacturing companies would cease production on their commercial variant style firearms and then resume production after the war. This is one of the ones that would production would ease up on by Colt. Now, in the second series, which actually this is in the second series, was between 1948 and 1955, and this one is actually in 1949, so second year of the second series of production. They made a couple of subtle changes, adding a traditional style magazine release here, similar to a 1911. They also did a change on the sights, and then there was a last round hold open, and then a magazine disconnect safety. So try that. Okay, there you go. They've always had these in many different variations as well. They've had the sport models, the match target models. I want to say earlier ones you would have a bullseye logo. This is the Rampant Colt and the Woodsman. And all those different variations would change your price. The match target variation with the heavy double lug barrel. And those would, of course, range in pricing. Now, the third series is accredited from being 1955 to the end of production in 1977, where the magazine release would go to the back of the kind of like a European style, and that was one of the main feature changes of that as well. Also, in the second series, they beefed up the frame a little bit from the first series. They widened the grip contours as well. First series usually have the ovular style wood panel grip, so you know you can see subtle variational changes. Now the pricing on these things, because there were 3 different series and 3 different types of configuration of these pistols, is all over the board. I've seen them as inexpensive and okay condition as $300. I've seen them in really good condition in like Woodsman Match Target or the early Bullseye style Woodsman first series. Woodsman go for $800, $900, $1,000. This being right in the middle of production, and it's in pretty good condition. It has 2 factory magazines. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, this is a factory mag. Both of them are. You know, overall condition to this, I'd probably say about 90%. Second variation, I would probably put in about the $500 price point plus or minus. So Very affordable for what they are, and these are known for being very, very good target pistols. Lots of collectors on these things, so if you are a 22 target pistol collector or Colt pistol collector, usually there's a place for a Woodsman in your collection, always known as being one of the most iconic 22 target pistols. So really cool to get them in. I've had in maybe 4 or 5 different Woodsmans from different series over the 7 or so years I've been in business, so they do not come in too frequently, but always happy to see one, and there's always buyers on them. So there it is, the Colt Woodsman. All right, well, that is all the time I have for you today on these. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video. If you enjoyed, please let me know by hitting that like button. Also consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell notification button so you are aware when we are posting new content. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you off with that. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.